This is the Nerdy Things Podcast. This podcast contains strong language, adult themes, and poorly developed ideas. We apologize for nothing. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 19 of the Nerdy Things Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Kevin. I am not joined this week by Jules. Sorry,
Jules.
But I am joined this week by Tim, as usual. Hey, Tim.
What's going on, Kevin?
Not much. What's going on with you?
Oh, not much. Just waking up this morning, doing some Nerdy Things podcasting.
There you go.
Doing a little research for the main topic, which is going to be very enjoyable. You know.
I know. I am looking forward to it. It's been a pretty good week. Most of the news this week seems to be movie-oriented, which I guess is good. We're in summer movie season, but I wish there were some other stuff going on. We're kind of past E3. Things from that are dying down. We're getting clips and in-game footage of things that they've announced, but not much more coming out of that.
No, this is when you get into the tedious debate. If you're really into video games and you're on like subreddits for various gaming systems or stuff like that, this is where you get into the tedious debate where all of these nerds try and read in between the lines of comments made by executives, and I'm like, come on.
Oh no, it's the worst. They're reading so much information into like every inflection, every comma, every pause, everything at all, and it snowballs. It's like a game of telephone.
Well, like EA gave an interview to somebody and they're talking about Switch support, which, you know, they've got one game for the Switch, which is FIFA, and it looks like they've done a really good job with it. And then, but obviously the Nintendo Switch is selling better than anticipated, blah, blah, blah. Looks like it's going to be a big success. And so they said, yeah, we're monitoring the success and we're looking for ways to introduce more games to the system. We know that the play experience will be different. So we're looking at that in our process, and clearly it's just going to be a different experience for the gamer than just sitting down playing with sticks on a PS4 or Xbox. Okay, right, that's true, because it can be portable, but all these people online are like, they're just saying it's a portable system and they're not going to put any effort into it, and that it's not as good. I'm like,
yeah,
not
exactly
one of
true.
those things that came out of that person's mouth implied anything inherently negative or that the system was subpar. Essentially, they said you have to sit down to play with a PS4, but you don't to interact with the Switch. That's it. It doesn't make it better or worse. It's just different. That's what they were saying.
These are the types of people that when I deal with at work, I want to roll my eyes, and I think I actually strained my eyes yesterday not rolling them in front of a customer because of what was being said to me. But yeah, no, you can't read into things like that too much. Sure, analyze it, pull it apart. You're going to learn some stuff, but one of the things I saw this week, someone on 4chan came out and was talking about how Supergirl is going to be in Man of Steel 2.
Nice.
And this was, 4chan is the wretched hive of scum and villainy, but this was an anonymous source from the worst place on
Celebrity
earth. And
naked leaks.
Yeah, exactly.
4chan.
No, that's 4chan. But this was the type of thing where there's no credibility to this. There's no way to verify this information. And it was everywhere. Everywhere is reporting that Supergirl is going to be in Man of Steel. And several people associated with it have come out and said, no, she is not. It's not happening. And yet, even after the tweet from Humberto Gonzalez, who is a film reporter at The Wrap, that was, he says he's spoken to everybody. He knows what's going on. It's not happening. Everyone is still reporting that this is happening because it's that like echo chamber, out of the loop, in the loop type of weird dissection that happens with this types of news.
Well, I'm interested in the fact that they're discussing Man of Steel 2 at all, considering the fact that Superman's dead.
Right. Wing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like putting the cart before the horse because Superman died in the last movie that we saw. So I don't know how they can make a sequel to the Superman movie when he's dead.
Right. Yeah, no, except yeah, he's not dead. Spoiler alert, he's on a ton of promotional material for Phantom League there, Justice League, whatever the hell it's called. No, it's true. A bunch of movie theater cups and such were leaked. It ruined the whole movie.
I won't see it now. Absolutely 100% will not see.
Yeah, no, don't worry. Alan was going to ruin it for us anyway. You know, I was talking to him yesterday. He went in and saw Transformers in one of the shows that was playing. And he comes out, he goes, "Oh, what a terrible movie." And I was like, yeah, you know what? I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to see it tomorrow. You know, don't ruin it for me. He goes, "Oh, I won't ruin it. But like, why did the robots make other robots?" And he starts talking about this one thing. And I'm like, no, stop, please, stop. And this was 5 minutes after he yelled at me for telling his wife that he ruins everything because she's been giving him shit for it.
Because she knows it's true.
She does. She knows. I had such a good conversation with her. She is so much more normal than he makes her come.
Oh, no, she's so much more normal than him, so that's why she seems less normal.
Well, it's not even just by comparison.
No, right, but to him, he's like, wow, this is weird. Because it's, you know, so the opposite of him.
Yeah.
That was a fun little conversation. We can talk a lot about Alan. I wish you would. Alan, you're listening. Your wife says she has to explain the movies to you. When she was talking about it, it kind of reminded me of watching movies with my mom. Only in this equation, you are my mom.
Alan is my mom? No.
Oh, man. Anyways. Yeah, that I have very little motivation to see Transformers. When one of the Transformers starts crying green grease. I mean, I'm a crier for a guy. I mean, I love to get emotionally involved in a movie, but you show me a robot crying green grease, I'm not, like, my heart is still. It is not beating. It's not moving along with you. I'm looking at this going, I'm supposed to care about this? Like, this is supposed to emotionally draw me in? Nah, I'm good. Just give him an oil change. He'll be fine. It's not working for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to see it. I'm going to see it after we finish recording this, actually. So I'll have a movie review up on the website soon, nerdythingspod.com. You know, I don't expect it's going to be good. I expect that, and this is what we're going to talk about today, that the nostalgia of Transformers is what's carrying a lot of this right now.
I think what's carrying a lot of this right now is just the studios feeling that they can make money off of it. But it's gotten to the point where even Michael Bay says he's going to be done. Even Mark Wahlberg says he's going to be done. And Mark Wahlberg will do just pretty much anything.
Yeah, absolutely he will. He's doing a sequel to Daddy's Home. So, yeah, that's proof right there. Which the trailer for Daddy's Home 2 just came out. I think it was a second trailer for it. I don't know if you saw that. I posted it up in the show notes.
I did.
It's decent trailer. That's something I'd see.
I have to say, I saw Daddy's Home. It was not very good.
No.
And this is one of those scenarios where I get stupid excited for a movie that I know is probably not going to be good. It's just like I went to see Rough Night this week, and I was like, against all odds, telling myself that this was going to be a good movie. I'm like, Kate McKinnon will carry the day. And Kate McKinnon was very funny. They just used her about 1/8 as much as they should have, because she's far and away the funniest person in that movie. I don't think that Zoe Kravitz is going to like make me laugh hysterically. But there was more her than Kate McKinnon, and that was a problem. But this is what it is with Daddy's Home 2. I look at this and I'm like, Mel Gibson, back in a comedy. Mel Gibson is so good in comedies. And then John Lithgow shows up. I love John Lithgow. I will see
How can you not?
anything with John Lithgow. Third Rock from the Sun, one of my all-time favorite comedy sitcoms. He was brilliant in that. But this movie is probably not going to be any good, and I want it to be good so bad because of the people involved. Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg, Mel Gibson, John Lithgow. I love them all. Even Linda Cardinale. Love her. Funny woman. It's still probably not going to be any good.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to Derek from the Wild Pitch podcast. He had us on this week, and I think it went spectacular. I hope he does. I'm not quite sure by the end that he liked us. But you can check that out, Wild Pitch podcast. I believe it was up episode 11 that we're going to be in, and that he should be posting that in the next week or two. So pay attention. And I would also like to thank again Alistair from Bite Size Lemons podcast. He joined us last week for a good topic where we talked about heroes, and we did a lot of E3 news. We don't have too much left to talk about, but we can get into the nerdy news.
Oh yeah, we got some nerdy news.
Nerdy news.
At 6 o'clock.
The Mummy set to lose $95 million.
Yeah, not a shock.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Did you go and see any of it?
No, I missed it. Well, I was planning on it. We were supposed to have it for 3 weeks at work. We had it for 1 week, and then they brought back Wonder Woman. So
yeah, they went away from that one real quick. There was so our theater at work has 550 seats in it, and I think the highest showing they had was 116 seats filled.
Ooh.
During the weekend. I mean, that's rough. Wonder Woman was filling 116 seats in the middle of the week.
Yeah.
Second week in. So they went back to Wonder Woman, which was smart. But yeah, I went in for 2/3 of it and wanted to finish and never got to. And it was not good at all. The premise was bad. The execution was bad. Just really none of it worked. Not even you got people in there like Tom Cruise, again, kind of a magnanimous, you have people like Tom Cruise in movies.
Yeah.
Didn't come across likable, didn't come across very energetic, didn't come across very charismatic. Russell Crowe came across kind of dead. I mean, these are people who I count on. They're in movies. I'm banking on their performance at least. And they didn't make it work. The chemistry between Tom Cruise and his female counterpart, not good. It just wasn't happening. And I think this spells very bad things for the dark universe.
Well, I agree. And I mean, I haven't seen the movie, so I'm sort of armchair outside of the loop quarterbacking here. But I feel like from everything going on, from the media, from everything else we're hearing about this and around this, is that they're trying too hard to make this succeed. And instead of making something good, they're focusing on what it's going to do and not what they are doing. Right. And I think that that's what causes failure. I can't put it any more plainly than that. If you try too hard, if you try to do what other people are doing, or if you try to just push yourself forward and make yourself this huge thing rather than start from the ground and build, you're going to fail.
Right. I don't know. This one got me because I really thought they were going to deliver with this one. I was like, the other Mummy movies were terrible, but they've obviously separated this. They've got, good people involved. And I was like, this is going to be good. I saw the trailer. It looked like it was action packed. It just didn't make any sense. Just from the get go, this is one of those ones where who reads this script and says, let's do this? I mean, especially somebody of the caliber of Russell Crowe. How does he look at this script and go, oh yes, I'd like to be involved in this movie? No. Dude, just pass.
Right. Well, you said they've obviously separated this from the other Mummy movies, and I don't think that that's obvious and or true. We have a lot of people who are still confused by whether this is in the same universe as Brendan Fraser's The Mummy, which I find weird to even have that debate, but then they throw the Book of the Dead from Brendan Fraser's Mummy into this movie, and it makes everybody speculate and wonder. So if you don't come out and say it, no one knows. I feel like this is Prometheus all over again. It's not part of it. It is part of it. It's not part of it. And then no one knows what the hell you're doing.
Oh, well, what are you going to do? Dark Universe is dead on arrival. I don't think they're going to be able to pull a Wonder Woman and save it midstream. So watch. No. I think the whole lawsuit over the Dark Universe thing is going to become a moot point. I think they're going to pay the lawyers more than they made for The Mummy.
I think that's leaving, but I think Tom Cruise is going to land on his feet because of Edge of Tomorrow 2, which they're filming. And from the director, we got a tweet saying, don't worry, it'll finally make the first movie make sense. Which I think goes back to my point. Maybe just make it make sense the first time.
It's always good to use a sequel to make your first movie make sense when the sequel wasn't even planned within 3 years of when the first movie came out.
Exactly. Well, you know what? They're doing the Empire Strikes Back formula where they've got they're just going to leave it at a cliffhanger and then they'll finish it up in the sequel. Only they forgot that there was a New Hope first, so they had a complete story and then they had the sequel and they knew they were shooting 2 back to back, so they could do that. Yeah, they just got confused. That's all it is.
That's it. Yeah, they were just confused.
Ugh.
I wish that we could just chalk it up to confusion on a lot of these movies. You know, oh yeah, they were just confused. No, these people are stupid.
No, they're new to it. You know, they haven't been making movies long.
Why is it that the average couch potato can look at these things and deem that they make sense or not make sense, but the people involved in the creative process can't look at it and see that?
I think it has to be a bigger problem than that. I think it has to make sense to certain certain points of view where, I don't know, I'm reaching. I got nothing.
Is it kind of like when you're too close to the process, you can't see the big picture? Like when we listen to this podcast and we think it's really good?
Right. I think so. I mean, I have to think that these are people that are looking at these movies and saying, well, these don't have the elements that we need to sell a movie because we've been doing this our whole lives. And then they add in those things or change those things, and it comes out looking like it does. Where if you made it like we assume would be the better way to make it, it may not sell to the broader audience because it doesn't have those elements that they need to appeal to certain people.
Gotcha.
You know, like, I don't know what the Midwest is like. I don't know what they go to see movies for. I know what I go to see movies for. I'm not picking on the Midwest. I love the Midwest. I'm just saying. I'm a New England guy. That's all I know.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to figure out like what the broad appeal on some of these things is too, you know, because sometimes movies are successful that I look at, I'm like, how does anybody want to go see this? So I guess you're kind of just in touch with your own thing and it's hard to figure out. But if the studios like want to insert themselves that much into it, like I just don't get why the artistic people behind it want to stick with it. Like, why don't they just try and make something small and independent? Why do they I don't know. Money. I guess money. I don't know.
Money. Yeah. I mean, I'd rather go see a movie that's well written, that has bad effects, but, you know, decent acting. Like, good story is the big draw for me. And I feel like we're not getting a lot of that. I feel like instead of that, we're getting good graphics and decent acting from actual actors.
Like, I guess maybe because we don't have any of it, Kevin, but I look at like $20 million as a lot of money. And so I think if I was like, I don't know, I'm going to pick a guy we talked about, Michael Bay, right? And I had made how many movies and I've had how many 20s of millions of dollars that I would say, I don't really care what the studio says. Like, I don't really care what the next big paycheck is. I want to make a great movie and I will take less money to make a great movie because it doesn't matter anymore. I mean, I get if you're Nicolas Cage and you have to pay for your tigers and your islands and your castles that you import from one continent to the next. But like if you're a normal, relatively normal person and you made a $20 million paycheck in a movie, wouldn't your next project just be a passion project because that's why you got into acting in the first place?
I mean, I guess for me it would, but again, you know, it's a lot of money. But it's not a lot of money to some of these people because of how they live. I mean, you got to keep in mind, some of these actors, some of these directors, they're flying from their home where they see their family out to these shoots several times a week in some cases. And they're living in places where it's super expensive and they've got these super expensive houses. And I'm not saying that they're like, oh no, poor them, they're living in these multi-million-dollar houses. But that's how they live. Like, you live to your means. And if you make more money, you spend more money.
Yeah, I mean, I get that that's the way most of America works, and I understand that. But if you got into movies for the craft in the first place, you can tell yourself, all right, I made $20 million on a movie, or over the course of 4 movies, if you're a relatively, you know, above average actor, you made $20 million, you kept $12 million of that after taxes, you bought a $3 million house cash, you've got a lot left over. The next paycheck's only $1 million. To do the passion project. If the reason why you went to film school, if the reason why you got into this was to make great film, and you have an opportunity to make great film for $1 million or $500,000, or like Gal Gadot got paid $300,000 for Wonder Woman, but gets some on the back end. If your movie's great, it'll make money and you will make more money. Like, why wouldn't you just stick with the $3 million house and then go do the passion project and make a great piece of film instead of buying an island and doing another $20 million movie that the studio is going to tell you what to do? Like, I don't know. I just don't get it.
Or you can set your kids up for life by doing the movie that they're telling you have complete creative control over, and they're going to pay you another $20 million.
Yeah, sure. I don't know.
I mean, I'm just saying that, you can make
But
the
the
argument.
thing is, there's so many movies to be made. It's not like an athlete only gets paid for so many years and that's it, right? So you got to cash in while it's there. You can act till you're 70. You know what I mean? You can make 25 movies at $20 million. You can afford to sit aside for one and make a great one.
Yeah, but then there are actors that don't get cast in anything unless they're the ones pushing it. Like we see, what's Vin Diesel been in recently?
I was just wondering, Vin Diesel, obviously was in Fast and the Furious. Did the new XXX movie, did that come out yet?
The third one, yeah, that came out. That was at work for, I don't know, a week, and then it was gone.
How did I miss that?
And then I missed it too. I don't really care. But yeah, that's out. That's out and gone. That's been out and gone for a couple months now.
See, that's sad because I actually did care and still missed it. And I follow this stuff, and I still missed it. I thought it was coming out August for some reason.
We had the giant cardboard cutout for it.
Really? I remember the cutout, but we get cutouts like months in advance sometimes now. I was convinced that was an August release, and then I was looking it up, and it looks like that came out in January.
Yeah.
And it didn't do well.
No. But they're making a fourth one, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Yay.
Woo-hoo. Well, I mean, the budget was only $85 million, so,
yeah,
that's not that much.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I can't really comment on whether I want this new one because I didn't see the third one, which makes me think they probably shouldn't make a new one because somebody who's a fan and follows movies didn't know that it came out. I don't know how they expect anybody to know the fourth one's coming out.
Yep.
So probably not a wise move on their part.
No. The other big news that came out this week actually just broke yesterday. Did you hear that the directors of the Han Solo movie are leaving? They're not going to be finishing the movie.
Wait, they're leaving the movie?
Yep. There's three weeks of filming left.
I thought this was just a hiatus.
They have packed up. Nope. They have packed up and they are leaving the movie because of creative differences. In a statement they made, they were like, "We know it's cliche, but in this case it's true. We can't reconcile. We are leaving."
Wow.
And they're off the project with only 3 weeks left of filming. So Disney's scrambling to find someone else to replace them for that the rest of the shoot to finish up that movie. This is Phil Lord and Chris, I forget his last name.
Yeah, Chris Miller, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
See, now this is what I'm talking about. This is creative passion. These guys know what they want to do. The studio wants them to do something else, and they're like, all right, I'll walk out. I'm sure they're leaving money on the table. I'm sure they're not going to get a full paycheck.
I'm sure. But I don't know the full extent of what this is. Because, I mean, to me, you're right. It's they know what they want. Disney knows what they want. But I don't know who's right. Like, I'm going to have to see this movie.
Do you know who's right? Can you guess who's right?
I can guess who's right. But by that same stroke, like, you took this job knowing it's a Star Wars movie and it's a prequel. You know how it's going to end. And if you're 3 weeks from finishing filming, I guarantee it's the end that's the problem. You can't change it. You can't have the main character die. It's not like Han Solo's going to lose a leg. It's not like we're going to find out that he's married with 3 kids waiting for him at home and they think he's dead or something, because that's just dumb.
Unless Disney insisted on a change, which we know is very possible.
But a change to what?
The script, the plot, something.
Yeah. Well, no, I think that's exactly what it was.
Like, this wasn't what was agreed upon going in.
I think that's exactly what happened. But I think it's that these guys, Phil and Chris, were trying to make a movie that was less formula, better movie, or funnier, or something. And Disney was like, no, we need it to be this. Because we went through this with the last one there, Rogue One. Yeah. Where the ending changed because the ending was different, and they had to fight for the ending that we got because that was the ending that made sense, and that was the ending that fit the tone of the movie. And Disney didn't originally want that. They wanted a happier Disney ending, right. And then the director fought to kill the characters. And I think that was a great, spoiler alert, but I think that was a great ending for that movie.
I love the post spoiler alert.
Yeah, I know. You know what?
All of the characters die. Spoiler alert. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I get what you're saying. So, but that's why I say I applaud them for this. I mean, if they went in thinking a certain thing, Disney said, no, you got to change it. And they're like, no, this is what we agreed upon. This is what best serves, the film. And Disney said, no, you need to change it. And they said, all right, we're walking out. Good for them. Exactly what I'm talking about. Put your art first. I love it. Now, the interesting thing will be, will Disney cave? Or, is this just a ploy? Is this a negotiation tactic? Or will Disney win, find a new director to film the final 3 weeks? Who does that anyways? Unless there's some emergency, Joss Whedon style or something like that, who comes in to just finish someone else's work and get a credit?
This happens all the time. This happened, I'm trying to think when this happened most recently, but this happened on one of the other movies, big movies this summer, where someone left midway through and they had to bring in a director to finish it. Yeah, no, but this happens all the time where you get directors that have creative differences or have scheduling conflicts or just want to do something else. And so they leave. And then the studio will bring in another director. We saw this with Ant-Man with Marvel, where we had Edgar Wright directing Ant-Man. And then he left after, 10 years in production because of creative differences. And Peyton Reed picked it up and finished it. And they used some of the storyboard from Edgar Wright and they used some of the ideas, but it wasn't Edgar Wright's baby at that point. And granted, totally different situation, but same situation. You've got a mostly finished movie.
It wasn't his baby?
No.
Like Baby Driver?
But you've got a mostly finished movie with Phil Lord and Chris, and they're stepping out. They're going to hire someone else for the last 3 weeks. But at that point, everything is planned. Everyone knows where it's going. I'm sure the actors even have scripts and know their lines. So they're leaving, and it just came out, too, that they had a meeting with DC about directing The Flash before they left Han Solo. So they may be going to do that.
Yeah, sure.
No, fuck 'em.
Great, good for them.
Burn. The whole DC universe is going down in flames.
Well, at least they got one good one before they burnt up into
with Wonder Woman
and rubble.
And then DC, the comic book creator, is capitalizing on that by giving her the brother she always never needed.
Was he built out of clay too?
I don't know. This is the thing: is Wonder Woman has so many origins.
There's so many penis jokes waiting to happen in that. Usually, we see Chris Pine naked. You see this guy naked. Oh, did you run out of clay?
Yeah.
There's just so much waiting to happen there.
Oh, God. That's pretty funny.
Sorry, it was the month of penis jokes for movies. So I'm that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's about it for movie news. But we did get the Atari Box reveal trailer.
Wait, you missed Pitch Perfect 3.
Oh, I'm so sorry. There was also the teaser for Pitch Perfect 3, which I don't know if Tim's excited about in any way, shape, or form.
It looks so good.
It does. It looks, it's Pitch Perfect. It's a great movie. It's a great series, and I am excited to see it.
You know what I love about these movies? So we've talked about this before. I think people go to see movies for people.
Yeah.
And I love music too. So that just if you've got people I like in it and there's good music, and the music always ends up being good in these, that's perfect recipe for a movie for me. I'm good to go.
Yep.
But I love it when people enjoy making them. So you see all of the girls that are in this movie, and when the movie wraps, since the movie wraps, they've been hanging out. They all went on a cast trip together to an island afterward. Now they're all in Disney World right now, or Universal Studios promoting a charity or something like that. All of them. So I love when the people involved just enjoy making the movie, enjoy each other's company. And the trailer that they made was a really cool concept that capitalizes on that, because it wasn't so much like an official trailer. Let me show you bits of the movie. It was, let's show you bits of the movie in production and what a great time these people had making it. Yeah. But that's what I think sells these movies is you've got, really cool chicks that just genuinely enjoy what they're doing. They love music. They love each other. And the product, I think, comes out well because of that. And I just think I don't know. I like the whole series is cool. So there's my spiel.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree completely.
Yeah, but Atari Box.
Yeah, we get the Atari Box reveal trailer, which is another thing that people are picking apart. And I don't think there's any information.
There's nothing to pick apart.
No, there's
a picture
nothing.
of a wood grain box
Yep.
Like the old Atari, but way cooler looking. The logo lights up, really cool. I will say, if this is what a console looked like, it would be the coolest looking console to be released maybe ever. Like, it is just a piece of art. Now, whether it's an actual console or not, whether it's a box that plays old Atari games like the NES Classic, which I doubt because I just don't think there's enough replay value in the old Atari games.
No, I heard that this was going to be PC based.
Yeah,
so.
I heard that too, but it could be PC based to play old Atari games. But I mean, does Atari really think that they're going to compete with Xbox and PS4? I mean, do we think
yes.
they think that?
Yes.
Who's gonna make games for it? Like, I don't know, dude. Like, I'm really curious. Let's say that I'm really curious.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm concerned and confused and excited at the same time. It reminds me so much of my teenage years.
Yeah, that makes sense. And your 20s, in your early 30s,
and last night.
So, I mean, when was the last time we had a new player in the gaming system race? It was Microsoft back in what, 2001, 2, 3? Like, when did Xbox first come out?
No, I think it was actually it was more recent. They just have failed miserably.
Like who?
It was like the Steam box.
Yeah, I know that doesn't really count though.
No, it does, and you've got what is it? The Shield.
Yeah, but the Shield just turned into the Switch. That's like what's in the Switch. But that doesn't. But again, that doesn't count. That's not like the Shield plays mobile games. The Steam box, they play movies on this. I mean, games on the Steam service. It's not a real console that people are developing games for. So if that's what this is, we haven't seen a new one of those since Xbox. I mean, all of those other things are just modified like PCs or tablets. This is supposedly a real console. Enclosed box, like we talked about last week, set to be optimized for. There won't be like multiple different versions of dedicated controllers for games developed for. And the Xbox, I believe, was the last time we actually saw that. I don't think anybody else has done that since.
I think you might be right. I can't really prove you wrong. I got no leg to stand on.
Let's see. Xbox was released November 5th, 2001. So 16 years. North America, February. Wow, they released in February? What a terrible time to release a game system that nobody knows anything about. That's awful. Yeah, so 15, 16 years since we've seen something new like this. And they've been struggling to survive ever since. And they're really bad at counting. I have to say, if somebody said, put your money on Atari or Sega re-entering the console wars, I would have put my money on Sega.
Every day. That would have been a safe bet, and we would have lost so much money. This is why we don't have millions.
This will be interesting. Plus, like I said, this could go in some sort of art museum as a piece of modern art. Really cool looking. I would want it on my shelf. If I could just buy the box for $25 with no guts inside, I would be pre-ordering day one.
That's funny. I don't know that I would. I think I'm gonna hold on to my money and focus on saving up for a Switch.
Or maybe it'll release and bomb, and I can buy it with the actual guts for $25 on eBay.
Ooh, maybe
that could work. All right, we got any other news, Kev?
Only other thing we have is the tribute to Adam West's unreleased Powerless episode that they released online.
Well, that's good. So I'm glad they did that.
A show and a man canceled before their time.
I don't know about the show.
The show was decent. The show failed because they made it fail. The show failed because, like I say, they tried too hard. If they had just let it be what it wanted to be, it would have been fine. You brought in Danny Pudi and then you boxed him in and made him not funny. He's a funny guy.
He is a funny guy.
You brought in, what's his face, Tudyk there, Alan Tudyk.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't describing him, that's his name. And he did the same thing. They made him more flamboyant and more over the top. and it didn't work for him because he's that already. And I think that they tried to write him too much, and in trying to write him too much, his creativity was stifled. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that, but I liked the show. I thought it was decent. I thought it needed legs, but they didn't give it a second season, so I got nothing.
Yeah, I guess I maybe reluctantly to some way can agree with you that it was canceled before his time, but Adam West was 88.
Yeah.
So I think he had his time.
I think everyone should live to 100, and then right on 6 o'clock the night of your birthday, you should just
6 o'clock, huh?
6 o'clock,
right.
Have a good meal, because when you're that old, you eat dinner at like 2:30 in the afternoon.
That's true. That's a good call. Yeah. Early bird.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's go down to the Sizzler and have the early bird special.
The Sizzler. I love it.
You ever been to a Sizzler? Right. I've never been to a Sizzler.
I've never been to a Sizzler.
I don't know if it's any good or not. It's just when I think of a generic restaurant, I think of the Sizzler.
Oh, at Bennigan's.
Bennigan's. Oh, that's a good one. What was the name of the restaurant in Waiting?
Let's see. That was.
It was a play on Bennigan's. What was it?
I don't know. I don't. Come to think of it, I don't even know that I've seen Waiting. I don't know why I'm trying to come up with it.
You've never seen Waiting?
No.
Dude, you're missing out. Oh, yeah, of course. Shenanigans.
Hey, Favreau, what's the name of that restaurant you like to go to that has all the crap on the wall? You mean Shenanigans? I'm sorry. Super Troopers is one of my favorite movies ever.
Super Troopers is awesome.
I can't wait for the sequel.
But so is Waiting. You need to see Kevin.
All right, I'll see Waiting. Do this, please. That's fine.
For me, do this.
Apparently, I didn't realize the Super Troopers takes place in the Waiting universe, so I'll have to see Waiting.
I mean, come on. Ryan Reynolds, Anna Faris, Justin Long, Luis Guzman, John Francis Daly. I mean, you just keep going
there's
down
no
the
way
list.
that this is going to go wrong. I just haven't seen it.
All right, well, change that.
Before we move on to the main topic.
Okay.
Tim wants to play a game.
Yes, I forgot to prepare. Oh,
I did too.
Great.
We have nothing. We have no preparation. But I want to get this in there.
So we both have to come up with the questions and the answers.
Yes.
This is a way better version of the game than Jimmy Fallon plays.
Oh, I agree.
All right, guys. All right, we're going to play a game. This is a game that was played on Jimmy Fallon. We just stole it right from their show. But apparently we're taking the next level. What was it called? Answer Fast? Was that what it was? I don't even remember the name.
Sure, it was called Answer Fast. That sounds 100%
It was something stupid like that, dude.
Dumb.
Hold on, I'm going to look it up because it was close to that stupid.
Think fast.
Think fast?
Think fast.
Fast. Yeah, you're right. Okay. So essentially the game is one person asks the other person a series of questions. And you have to answer that question like immediately without thinking. Now, the twist to our game is we also have to come up with the questions because we didn't write them down. And then on the third round, I will ask a question. Kevin will answer the question, then ask a question back, which I will then answer and then ask a question back. Right?
I'm not going to lie. I didn't finish watching the video.
Oh, you're an ass. So who's going to be the first asker?
Ask me a question.
All right, you ready?
Sure.
Okay. What do you do to get rid of stress?
Jump.
What's your favorite way to waste time?
Staring at the wall.
What are you going to do this weekend?
Scratch my legs.
What's the best, worst thing about your work?
The smells.
What would be your perfect weekend?
Staring at the walls.
If you open a business, what kind of business would it be?
Selling puppies to people who don't want puppies.
What is the most disgusting habit some people have?
Picking their nose.
Okay. Those are my questions.
All right.
Flip it, reverse it. We do this one more time each, and then we go into the back and forth.
Okay. What is love?
Amazeballs.
How much does a fart weigh?
7.26 kilograms.
How tall is your mother?
She's about 4 feet and a half plus centimeters.
What is an upload made out of?
Downloads in reverse.
Fair enough.
You got more?
That's what I got for now.
That's all you got? You got 3?
I had 4. That was 4. You gave me 4. I give you 4.
I gave you 4. You gave me 4. I gave you cookie. You gave me cookie. New girl quote. Okay, ready?
Maybe.
All right, here we go. Is it true cannibals don't eat clowns because they taste funny?
No, there are other reasons.
If you write a book about failure and it doesn't sell, is it called a success?
Yes, every time.
Are the good things that come to people who wait the leftovers of people who went before them?
The second mouse gets the cheese.
Isn't Disney World a people trap operated by a mouse?
And highly effective.
Why aren't blueberries blue?
Because they're not purple berries.
What if Batman gets bitten by a vampire?
He becomes Man-Batman.
Can we spell creatively however we want?
No.
Do infants enjoy infancy as much as adults enjoy adultery?
This is more than 5 questions.
I know, it gets up.
I hope not.
I hope they do. I'm going to enjoy it more. Okay, that's my questions.
All right. What do doctors do?
They use stethoscopes.
Where is Narnia?
In the closet.
What's your favorite language?
Gleek blub.
What do umbrellas do poorly?
Cover rain. They're really bad at that. I get wet every time.
Who plays you in the movie version of your life?
Kevin Hart.
All right, that's what I
That's
got.
what you get? All right, so now we're going to do the back and forth.
I guess.
Was the person who invented the express lane at the grocery store properly thanked?
Yes, but very quickly. What's the best restaurant?
Bennigan's. Why don't the hair in your arms get split ends?
They do. You just don't notice it. What's your darkest fear?
My darkest fear? That's racist. That's all I got. Why does it take 15 minutes to cook minute rice?
Because you're cooking 15 portions of it. How many people are there in the world?
7.2 trillion minus the sum of the odd parts. Why are they called training bras? What do we teach them?
Hold on. And that's actually my answer. Do ghosts exist?
Ghosts are irrelevant to the existence of natural order of life. If space is a vacuum, who changes the bags?
God's made. How does purple taste?
Kind of like a magenta. If tin whistles are made of tin, what do they make foghorns out of?
Oh, frogs minus the R. Oh, God. We're done. We're done.
Why do feet smell and noses run?
Why do you park in a driveway and drive in a parkway? Come on, Gallagher, get your shit together.
Oh, man. That game is fun. We should play this game every week. We should get
fun.
real questions and play it every week.
We should. We should bring Jules into that.
Definitely.
Oh, all right. So let's get into the main topic. We want to talk a little bit about nostalgia and about what that is and what that means and why it's such a big deal to Tim.
What? It's a big deal to you.
Yeah. It is less of a big deal to me.
Don't know about that.
It is a big deal to a lot of people.
I just think it's fun to reminisce about times gone before.
No, and I think that's nostalgia. I mean, that's why people get so excited about this. Those are the good times in their lives.
Well, I would consider now a good time in my life, too. So I don't know that it's so much that. I just think it's, I don't know. Maybe it's an assessment of today's society and looking at it and saying, this isn't quite right. We're going in a bad direction. I don't know. Maybe that's it.
I mean, but I think we're always going in a bad direction. I mean, you always have these stories of the older generation hating the younger generation, get off my lawn type of thing. And everybody's, I used to walk backwards, barefoot, both ways in the snow to and from school, and then have to work 16 hours. And there's always that nostalgia. There's always that thought that the world was a better place. And I don't think the world was ever a better place. I think the world was a different place.
I look at it, there's two things that I look at there. One, I am a great defender of millennials. I think technically I might be like the world's oldest millennial. I'm like right on the cusp, based on most things that I've read. But I don't consider myself a millennial, but I defend them because I think they were given a raw deal in a lot of ways. And I think that's the fault of the older generation. And I also look back at my youth, like I grew up in the 80s. I was born in 82. And I actually think that the perfect generation to grow up in was the 80s, but like if I was a little older. Like if I was the same age as Ralph Macchio or the people in the Goonies. Like I think being a teenager in the 80s would have been the coolest because I think it's the perfect cross section between like you can go out and ride your bike. You want to go out and ride your bike. You can get into a fist fight without being arrested or prosecuted or expelled from school. And there's still technology like NES that was really cool. So it's like no generation before had the technology and no generation after has had the kind of freedom of youth to grow up and kind of experience failures without hovering the same way that you did in the 80s or before. So I think it's the perfect cross section of the two kind of generations that we've seen before and since.
Yeah, I mean, realizing that we're biased towards that, I agree. I think that was a time when a lot of 80s movies were really good movies because we couldn't have the effects that movies have now. And so they had to rely on good storytelling in order to make a good movie. And I think that there were a lot of terrible, shitty movies in the 80s, but I think that there are a lot of classic movies that came out of the 80s.
And I think it promoted, like just that time frame promoted imagination and creativity. And I think today's generation promotes imagination and creativity in a different way. Like people are innovating in technology in ways that weren't thought of before because they experienced that in their youth and they think about ways to kind of mold and change that. Whereas we were just thinking about creativity in the world and in our minds, a different type of creativity and vision. That's, something that I see differently as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. But I think that there's a lot of like movies and things like that evoke these emotions in people. I can't think of one off the top of my head that might star Robin Williams, but I'm sure we can come up with something as an example of that that was great at the time. And, looking back on it, it is, I'm not going to say flawed, but it's not as great as it was when I first watched it.
I disagree with that, but continue.
No, but I think that the memories of things like this, they're a filter over the experience. You look back and you remember the emotion that you had with it, and that emotion informs your feelings on it now. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, that's certainly a good thing for a lot of people because it means you can be happy with what you experienced.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess if you go back and look at nostalgia, it's not always just colored. Like, I think if somebody goes back and watches the first Exorcist movie, the effects are terrible by today's standards, but that movie's still scary as hell. And like, for example, The Neverending Story as a kid's movie. The Neverending Story, the effects are not great, but the movie is still, it inspires imagination. It's scary. I think kids of today could still watch that movie and genuinely enjoy it in a different way than they enjoy most movies made for them today.
Sure. I think a lot of movies now are pandering towards, I don't know, a different state of mind altogether.
Well, I think that what their goal is to make it look as cool as can be, not necessarily to feed the creativity of the mind of the child watching it.
And it suffers.
I think that was one of the things I liked about a lot of the stuff from our generation was it was designed to make us think creatively and see things differently and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I think it's always funny to see on Facebook all of these lists that are like, only 90s kids will remember, and then they list a bunch of stuff that may or may not have anything to do with the 90s.
Oh, I know. I love that.
Only 80s kids will know what this is. And then it's some random thing that, was popular for like 3 days when we were in high school or something.
Right.
But I thought it might be cool to list some of the things that sort of make you nostalgic. Like, what do you miss from childhood, Tim?
Well, I mean, like the NES was an iconic thing from my childhood. And you see how well it has captured a generation when you look that Nintendo sold 1.5 million NES classics, a box basically that looked like the original system with 30 games on it out of the 800 that were released for the system, and people bought 1.5 million of them and complained because probably half the amount of people who actually wanted to buy it got to buy it. So I mean that right there shows the worth that system has like 30 years later, just in terms of fun, nostalgic gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, to play devil's advocate on that, the generation that was popular to now has disposable income.
Yep. But I will say, I failed to get in line once to try and buy one, and there were a bunch of parents there saying that their kids were asking for it.
Yeah.
So
good.
that goes to show you that it goes beyond just our generation being nostalgic for it and having, extra money to throw out there. This was a Christmas item, a Hanukkah item that kids wanted this year. And it existed well before they were even born, 20 years before they were born.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wistful for the old Ataris too, which we're getting the new Atari system.
Then there's things that kids don't even know that they want, like Squeeze-Its. Do you remember Squeeze-Its, Kevin?
I remember Squeeze-Its.
For those of you who don't remember Squeeze-Its, our 20-something listeners, Squeeze-Its was a bottle full of sugar drink, and you actually twisted off kind of ripped off the plastic tab off the top of it, and you drank it, and it was really cool. I don't know why, but it was really cool.
Yeah, no, it was the most sugary, disgusting thing that you could ever have, and I had too many of them.
Yeah, let's just structure this, Kevin. Let's just go down memory lane. Let's just talk about some things that we enjoyed from our childhood, almost in kind of random sequence, just like we're taking a walk down a museum of old things.
All right.
What do you see, Kevin, on the wall?
I miss Mr. T.
Mr. T, I pity the fool.
I mean, we still see him every once in a while, but that's not Mr. T. That's old Mr. T. I miss the A-Team.
Mr. T was so big he ended up in a Rocky movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Clubber Lang.
And honest to God, like, I don't know how they got him out there to film that, because I know that Mr. T would never get on an airplane unless you drugged him.
Clubber, what's your prediction for the fight? Pain. Done. Yeah, Mr. T was awesome. And you know what was so cool about Mr. T and other heroes of that generation? The PSAs they did for, like, kids' TV.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yes, stay in school, kids. Don't do drugs.
I pity the fool that doesn't stay in school. Oh, God.
Do your homework. Only you can prevent forest fires.
Yeah, but, like, that's my favorate, like, era of TV.
Stop, drop, and roll.
You got the A-Team. You got Dukes of Hazzard. You've got Knight Rider. We need a TV Dukes of Hazzard reboot. That's what's missing from this world right now.
That would be good.
That I think we need. And I don't actually think we need that because it's going to be terrible. But I'm in. I miss, like, even getting a little later. Small Wonder, the TV show. Saturday morning cartoons. Like,
dude, Saturday morning cartoons were the best.
Getting up early Saturday morning, going down and watching TV before my parents got up. That was the best. And then they just slowly transitioned away from cartoons on Saturday mornings.
Saturday morning cartoons, for those of you of a different generation, were so big that every fall they would have a Friday night prime time, like half an hour thing where some of your favorite TGIF stars, like the stars of Full House or what was the other one? Step by Step, would tell you what was on the docket for this year's run of Saturday morning cartoons and get you hyped to watch Saturday morning cartoons on Friday night. Like, that's how big Saturday morning cartoons. Pee-wee's Playhouse. Dude, you remember watching Pee-wee's Playhouse?
Oh my God, I remember Pee-wee's Playhouse before he touched himself in that adult theater.
And I don't know what one has to do with the other. He still could have kept making Pee-wee's Playhouse.
The parents didn't want it.
I got a rubber band ball! Yeah! Guys, look how big my tinfoil ball is. Look at how many balls he had. We should have known.
It was, the writing was on the wall.
Everything was a ball. It was a rubber band ball the size of a man. It was a tinfoil ball the size of a man. It was a ball the size of a man. I mean, we should have known. But yeah, I mean, Pee-wee's Playhouse was cool. It taught you like creativity and thinking about weird, crazy turban-wearing floating heads that told your future, talking chairs, you know, clocks on the wall telling you the time, literally.
Oh. Yep.
Funny stuff.
Oh,
Saturday morning cartoons were really cool.
What do you got? What's on your wall of nostalgia?
Oh, let's see. What am I looking at right now? Right now, I'm thinking about like random little toys, like the I don't know, like rubbery hands that were on a rubbery string that you threw against a window and they stuck to it.
Oh, yes. And on that note, the wacky wall walkers.
Yes. So they were like sticky, rubbery, not rubbery kind of things, and you throw them against the wall or a window, and they would stick. But then they would let go and then stick again, so it looked like they were walking down the wall. And I have no idea why that was cool. But the problem with those is then everything else would stick to them. So once they hit the floor, if nobody had vacuumed that week and done their chores, well, you just had a dust blob of a sticky thing. So that was kind of the downside to those toys, but those were fun.
I don't remember who did it, or whether it was me, my dad, or what, but one of us took one of those wall walkers and threw it so hard at the ceiling in my kitchen that stain was there for years. That thing, it broke and it didn't come off, and we had to scrape it and repaint.
Let's see. I'm also thinking of Teddy Ruxpin.
Yes.
Teddy Ruxpin was cool. Teddy Ruxpin was a character from a TV show, kind of, but he was a stuffed teddy bear that had a tape recorder built in, and you put the tape in, and his mouth and eyes would move as he was telling you the story. So it was like he was coming to life telling you a story.
That was creepy when you put in anything other than a Teddy Ruxpin tape, though.
Really creepy. And what else was creepy was that technology back then wasn't really battery efficient. So you'd put like 72 D-cell batteries in there, and they would last approximately 1 1/2 tapes worth. So by the time you get to the middle of the second tape, Teddy Ruxpin was talking really funny, and he looked like he was drunk and dying.
Yes, his eyes would like slowly close and open.
What you want your kids to see when they're trying to fall asleep. It was nightmare inducing. But everybody wanted a Teddy Ruxpin or a My Buddy.
Yes, my buddy. My buddy and me.
Exactly. Kid sister.
Yep. And My Little Monster.
My Little Monster was so cool. He had the chain. You could break the chain.
Yes.
Just because it was already broken, but that was cool. So my pet monster was weird, scary looking monster, and he was supposed to be super strong. So he was supposed to have broken out of, I don't know, a prison to come play with you. See, we had weird toys. Like, if you think about those toys in retrospect, they really were creepy. So yeah, this monster broke out of his prison to come play with you. But so he had the handcuffs on and the metal chain, but the metal chain had it was plastic. It had a break in it so you could connect it and then rip it apart. And he had like friends and stuff too that would play with you. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and then there was Popples and Pillow Pals, which are
yeah,
another two weird ones that for some reason make me happy.
What about Mr. Frosty or like the Snoopy snow cone machine?
I had that Snoopy snow cone machine. In fact, I think I still have it.
It's still in my parents' basement.
Yep.
Like 100% still down there.
I think it's in my parents' attic.
So this was a homemade snow cone making machine, guys. Like, you know, if you've ever watched Snoopy, Snoopy sits on his little house. So it was like a house, and there was a hole in the middle of it and a crank on the back, and you would pour ice cubes and syrup into the back of it and crank the crank, and it would crush the ice, come out the hole in the front into your cup, and you'd have a little snow cone.
Yeah, I think you'd actually have the syrup afterwards. I think it would just.
Oh, you're right.
It was just an ice shaving thing.
It was. It was pretty much just an ice crushing
house
crank
with a hole in the top with a crank that you could do the same thing with anything that would shave ice, but this was Snoopy themed, and so it was so much better.
Yeah, and there was another one called Mr. I just saw an image of it. What was it called? It was essentially the exact same thing. Oh, Mr. Frosty. It was the exact same thing, but in the shape of a Frosty the Snowman. But the interesting thing about that one was the hat that Frosty had on was actually a rubber, like, nipple. You know, like for a baby bottle. So you'd pour the syrup into his head, and then after you shave the ice out, you tip him upside down, and you would squeeze the syrup out of Frosty's head.
Yeah, that's pretty awful.
Yeah, but cool.
My sister had Spirograph.
Yeah, Spirograph.
And
cool.
What was the one that spit paint? The paint spinning.
Oh, I don't remember the name of that, but I know what you're talking about.
And yeah, we had paint all over my basement from that one. And then there was, let's see. Oh, the Easy Bake Oven.
Mm-hmm. Classic.
100-watt light bulb version. And then I had the 7-foot-long G.I. Joe aircraft carrier.
Did you?
I did.
Dude, that is epic.
Yeah, I didn't have any friends to play with it with me, but I had it.
I don't know if
action... and they got it for me.
I don't know if action figures are still like really cool things, but they were where it was at when we were kids. Every show had an action figure. Sometimes they made shows to be action figures, like He-Man was an action figure that they turned into a TV show, a terrible TV show, by the way, in retrospect. But like every TV show had the coolest action figures, and you wanted to collect all of them, and you played G.I. Joe, and you made like you take a string or a rope or something and tie it from one end of the room or outside, and you'd like have your action figures slide down them, like they were on a zip line, stuff like that. Like you were really creative about how you created the play areas for your little action figures.
Oh, hell yeah. I used to take cardboard boxes and make like whole cities for them.
Yes. I took a box and I made a Ninja Turtle playhouse once, where the underside of the box was the sewer and the top was this New York street, and I had like cardboard cutouts of buildings, and I would put on like shows, like, hey, look at my show, this is a Ninja Turtle show. Yeah, it was fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I used to do, so my brother one year got a Voltron, or a programmable Voltron thing where you could like make it walk 2 feet ahead, turn left, then walk. And I actually took a shoebox and drew the Statue of Liberty from Ghostbusters on it and made it walk as if it was the Statue of Liberty. And we played Ghostbusters in the Ghostbusters. He had the playset for the firehouse that they had.
That was
awesome.
What were your favorite TV shows to collect action figures from?
Mask.
Mask, huh?
Mask. Did you ever watch Mask?
I don't know that I did.
Mask was the one where it was just a bunch of, like, they had their home base was a gas station, and then when they were under attack, like, the pumps would lift up and become guns, and the cars that they had, like, the doors would open and become wings, and they could fly, and it was called Mask because all the guys had masks that would come over their head that would protect them against, gas or whatever. They could go underwater, and it was weird, and it had no real point except to sell toys. But it was awesome.
That is really cool.
Yeah. I love Transformers. I love G.I. Joe. I mean, I was a total, like, into that sort of thing kid.
Yeah. Voltron was the one, like, probably the biggest one for me. Like, I had He-Man toys. When I was really little, I think it was He-Man first. But I had He-Man toys. I had some G.I. Joes, some Transformers. But, like, Voltron was definitely the one for me. And the thing is, being my age, Voltron aired first in 84, I think. So by the time I was, 5, that was 87. Voltron was still on syndication. Like there was only 1.5 kind of seasons of Voltron, but it just kept airing in afternoons forever. But the toys were harder to come by. So we had to search, because you just couldn't go to Toys R Us and get a Voltron toy. You had to search to find them. And there was no internet. You couldn't just go to eBay and buy them. So there was this place in Lowell. If anybody's from Massachusetts, it was in Lowell called Rogers Pool. It was a pool store. But for some reason, Rogers Pool had a toy section. And they had mostly outdated toys, and we were able to find the Voltron stuff there. And it was the most exciting time of my life to find these Voltron action figures and the Voltron castle and all this stuff. And it was pretty cool. And I think the search for stuff was part of the fun of collecting it back then,
Well, yeah, you never knew what they were going to have. You're right. We didn't have online. People had to go to brick and mortar stores.
Yeah. Like you would go to you would go up to the mall, or you would go out and you'd beg your parents, can we go to Toys R Us? Can we go see what's there? Like you were discovering things there. You'd go to see what the latest video game was on display, or see what the latest toys were. Like, oh, I've never seen this before. Because, it wasn't, you didn't go to Amazon. You didn't look on your tablet and see this kind of stuff. It was a whole discovery out in the world to see new things for the first time. It was pretty cool.
I mean, you didn't have unboxing on YouTube. You didn't have people, because that's a huge thing now. My nieces and nephews, they watch on YouTube as people open up blind boxes of things and unwrap toys. And I think that's weird, but apparently there's a market for it.
Yeah. Let's see. What about classic cartoons? Talked a little bit about, Saturday morning cartoons. What were some of your favorites?
The Super Mario Power Hour.
Yes.
Yeah. So
the Super Mario Power Hour was one of the weirder TV shows that I can ever remember. It was real life guys.
Hosted by Captain Lou Albano, the wrestler. For some reason. Because he looked a little like Mario.
Yeah, he had long curly hair, which, I don't know, that was weird. And then Luigi was just an old dude.
And Captain Lou always had the rubber band in his beard.
Yeah, it was such a weird... So these guys were, in a brick house. I don't know what the house had to do with Super Mario. I don't know. They were in a sewer, maybe. I don't know. It kind of looked like, if you've ever seen the old SNL skit that Eddie Murphy did, Mr. Robinson, his take on Mr. Rogers, and he's living in the project. Hello, boys and girls. It was kind of like that house. It was weird. But then they would cut to a cartoon of Super Mario. And once a week, there was a Legend of Zelda episode. And the Zelda cartoons were weird because it was this back and forth. Link wanted to date Zelda and she didn't want it. And he was kind of a punk, arrogant, and she would always make him look like a fool. But then they would fight somebody. But it was a continuing story, like a saga, which was kind of cool. So you had to keep tuning in to see what would happen next week on the adventures of Link.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
What about let's talk about some movies. What were some movies from youth that make you wispy?
The Goonies.
Oh, The Goonies. Yes. Yeah, the total classic. Did you see it in theaters or did you see it afterwards?
I would say I probably saw it on TV or something like that. Back then, see it. Another thing too, you didn't have on demand. Yep. You didn't necessarily have HBO was just becoming a thing. So the Star Wars movies, for example, would be on basic cable. And but it was a big deal. You had to know that it was coming. Hey, guess what? They're going to air Return of the Jedi. My aunt would invite me over. Hey, they're going to air Return of the Jedi Saturday at 3:00. Really? No way. And we'd make a thing out of it, or sometimes you just flip through the channels and all of a sudden it's what? I can't believe this thing's on TV. So I probably saw the Goonies on TV for the first time if I had to.
But I feel like a lot more movies back then came to regular TV than now.
Oh, well, absolutely. Because if you think about it, you didn't buy movies.
Yeah.
You rented VHS tapes. So the VCR played VHS tapes. And the VHS tape industry was actually designed around renting, not buying. And this continued on to even like the early 2000s, I worked at a video store, and DVDs were just, becoming a popular thing. So when we were doing orders for new release movies, or even like what we called catalog movies, the DVDs were always intended to be purchased. So a new DVD would cost at that time 25 or 30 bucks, kind of like a new Blu-ray now. And to a rental store, it would be the same thing. That's why there was such a great return on them. You'd buy it for 25 bucks, you turn around, rent it 4 times, and it's paid for itself. VHS tapes cost $90.
Oof.
So VHS tapes cost about 90 bucks. They were more expensive to produce, but the whole idea was that for 6 months to a year, they would cost $90 or so dollars, so that normal people couldn't buy them. You had to go to a store to rent them. So people weren't like, it wasn't like you just go and buy a movie. You had to appointment view it. You had to rent it. So that's why I think things came to cable, because nobody owned them. So if you wanted to watch it on TV, like, that was the way to do it. You just had to kind of find out when it was on. So they knew they could get ratings that way. So it was worth their investment to like buy the rights to watch this movie or to play this movie. Totally different formula than it is now.
Yeah, it's like that artificial gatekeeping. But did they come out earlier than they do now? Or was that still...
No, later usually.
Really?
So now, what was it that I just bought Beauty and the Beast, which came out in March, right?
Yeah.
So that's April, May, June. So we're talking like 3 months later. When I was first in the movie and business, it was 6 to 8 months after release is when a movie would be available for purchase or rent. It used to be back in the day anywhere from 6 months to a year after it came out in theaters, because theater runs would end up being longer. If the movie was really good, they would continue to play it like once a day, for 6 months after it came out. And then another 3 to 6 months after that, it would come out for rent. So it was a whole different slow burn in terms of how you consumed the movie content back then.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like mom and pop video rental stores, like this tiny little hole in the wall place where I'd walk in, tell them my account number, and then rent a movie and leave. And then because I rented 10 videos, I'd get one free or whatever. And it was like 6 years before this chick realized I didn't have an account there. And I was just reading one of the numbers off the board behind her where she wrote down how many videos you'd rented.
We used to have a video rental at one of the grocery stores. I think it was like a Purity Supreme or something like that, before it was Stop and Shop.
Yep.
And they had it in the corner of it. And like that was a brilliant marketing move, because, you have to go to the grocery store. And you have to bring the kids. You can't leave them home. So they're with you at the grocery store. And they're like, Mom, can we go look at the videos? Can we go look at the videos? Oh, please, can we rent Care Bears again? Please, can we rent Care Bears?
Homeward Bound.
The freeze guy.
Bound.
Oh,
it was 6 times we rented Homeward Bound. It was the only movie my sister and I could agree on.
Oh, yeah, dude. But you beg and plead, and you're already there. There's no way to avoid it. It's not like you just drive the car past it. It's in the corner of the grocery store. Mm-hmm. There's no avoiding it. Yep. And it was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant on their part.
Now that's replaced with Redbox.
Yeah, kind of. Definitely a very similar thing. Mom, can we please get it?
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. But it only costs $1.25 to rent a Redbox, $1.50, whatever the heck it is now. Yeah. It used to cost $4 or $5, even back then.
Oh, yeah.
To rent a movie.
No, I know. I mean, it was kind of insane, but whatever.
But they had to pay for those $90 VHS tapes.
Yeah, it was what it was.
How about Flight of the Navigator? Do you remember Flight of the Navigator?
I do. I remember Flight of the Navigator. That was one of the ones that haunted me.
What a weird-ass movie that was.
What a weird-ass movie, especially for a children's movie. The Explorers, I think, was the other one. I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. That was the one where the kids received blueprints for some sort of microchip in their dreams. And when they made it, it created a bubble that allowed them to build a spaceship to go out into space. And they met an alien race, and it was this whole weird little thing. Explorers, 1985.
A lot of movies back then were kind of creepy. Do you remember The Secret of Nim?
Yes.
About the mice?
Yeah.
People, mice died in that movie.
Yeah.
There was blood and death.
That was awesome.
It was awesome, but it was, super creepy for a cartoon.
Oh,
But the one thing I liked about movies and, young adult / kids movies back then is they weren't afraid to go places and teach lessons, about like life and death and loss and stuff like that.
But yeah, I think that's a good nostalgic conversation.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we could go on.
We could go on forever, but you know what?
Yeah,
reach out to us. Tell us what we missed. Tell us what you're nostalgic about, whether you're our age or not, and let us know how right or wrong we are. You can reach us at nerdythingspod@gmail.com. You at nerdythingspod on Twitter and Facebook. You can find us at nerdythingspod.com. And you can always try our Patreon, where we have some content and some paid content. And that's patreon.com/nerdythingspod. And you got anything else you want to add, Tim?
Well, I mean, if you like nostalgia and you're of a certain age and you want to support us on Patreon, we will do a movie commentary of Hook, one of the great early 90s films in existence. And we would love to watch it and talk about it while we watch it, so you could listen to it while you watch it. Yep. Watch us watch.
But you're never going to get me to watch that unless you pay me.
Exactly. I would watch it tomorrow, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, I know. But I'd like to thank Adipsia for letting us use his music for the intro and outro, and check out his new album, The Stoic.
The Stoic.
Which you can
Don't let your friends drive to TGI Tuesdays.
Friends don't let friends eat at TGI Fridays.
That's right, okay.
And I'd also like to thank The Bell Curve for some of his music as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Kev. This was fun. Have fun, Jules, out in California.
Bye, Jules. We miss you.
Later.
Bye.
Calling all 90s kids. Do you miss the last great decade full of wholesome sitcoms, rad colorful patterns, and the worst fashion to ever make a comeback? Jenny here, and I got the cure for what ails ya with the 90s TV Hour. We're a podcast about the greatest entertainment the 90s had to offer, from life lessons to boy bands and everything in between. You want more great 90s content? Come join the 90s TV Hour addicts on Facebook, or follow at 90s TV Hour on Instagram for new 90s goodness every day, from infomercials to Toy Back Thursdays to the 90s Song of the Day, and so much more. We'll see you there.